So we'll start now with Atma Nirvriti chapter 12. Drishyam Orikulumilla, the non-existence of objects. So this is a continuation from chapter 11. In chapter 11 we did, how can thoughts which arise and set in me be other than myself? They have to be me only. When there is a thought, I am seeing myself. When there is no thought, I remain in my own glory. So Atmananda says, if you reach this understanding in your experiential recognition, it becomes evident that this entire world of people, situations and things is simply a thought. The seed of the world itself is a thought, and from that seed springs forth this world picture every morning, and it dies every night. And it's only a picture, a four-dimensional picture. Like how you go to IMAX and you watch this 3D movie and it seems that really those things coming at you are real. It's exactly like that. It is like that four-dimensional movie. It has length, width, height and time. 4 dimensions. But it is simply a thought. And that thought is nothing but me. How can it be anything other than myself? And when you see the movie, the 3D movie, what is it in reality? It is light that is being projected on a screen. And there are images visible there. There is no real hero there, no real heroine, no real villain. What are they really made of? They're simply light. Simply light. There is no great situation, no money, no story. It is simply light. There is no perception of sight, sound, smell, taste, touch really. It is simply light. Exactly like that. My personal world is nothing but images on a screen. And there is a light projecting that. There is no good and no bad, no right, no wrong. There is no happiness, no sadness. Everything is simply this light that is projecting. This entire world is simply a thought. So now you will have to drop just intellectually understanding this, and you will have to experiment with your own family, your own parents, your own kids, your siblings, your spouse, your friends, your colleagues. Can you see them all as simply thought? Your finances, your money in the bank, your career, your shares, your idea of a career or your idea of no career. Everything is simply thought. My entire universe that comes up every morning is simply thought. Have you started seeing like that? Seeing everyone in this personal universe of yours like that? There is no proof of existence of even one single person. There is no proof of existence of even one single thing, one single object. Forget people, objects. There is no proof of the existence of even planets or the earth or the sun or the moon, the solar system, the multiverse. Every single thing is nothing but a thought. There are no objects existing out there. It is simply thought. So just like when the light is coming out of that projector and it's shining on the screen, is the light different from the light which is on the screen? The light at its source, can it be different from the light which is images on the screen? No. The source from where the light is projected and the screen where the light takes the form of images, hero, heroine, money, palace, garden, both is same. This light at the source is formless. This light on the screen in the form of a hero, heroine, garden, palace has name and form, nama rupa. But both is same. Quality is the same. It's just light. Is this very clear? There is no difference. So neither the light at the source nor the light between the source and the actual projection nor the projection light are different. They are all one and the same. I am the source of that light. And I am that light itself. And I am the name and form, which is the projection of the light. I am all of them. I, the ocean of knowledge. Consciousness is nothing but ocean of knowledge. I project knowledge. And knowledge, when it's projected, takes name and form. The projected name and form is what I call thought. The source is what I call I. But I, the source light, and the light that is falling on that screen and is seen as that particular name and form, we are not two different entities, it's the same light. There are no objects out there. It is simply thought. So let's experiment to see, can we see this experientially? So I hope everybody got their fruit. Do you have your fruit? Can you bring it out? Now we will experiment with sense of sight. Leave all previous experiment memories aside. They were different. This object is the same, the prop is the same, but the experiment is different. Okay? So you keep your fruit in front of you. We will experiment with the sense of sight. Look at the fruit. Is there a separate seer, a separate process of seeing, and a separate object of sight? Do you notice three separate aspects, or is there just one in your own experiential recognition now? If you see three, you are still stuck at Srishti Drishti Vada. If you see one, you have moved automatically to Ajata Vada now. Yes, so this is a litmus test for you. How are you seeing it? You will know your own truth right here and right now. I'll repeat that again. Is there a separate seer, a separate process of seeing, and a separate object of sight? Or do you notice just one? Are there three separate aspects or just one? You see, go deeper into this exploration. Is there really a seer involved in the process of seeing? Is there a seer who is experiencing a separate object of sight? Or is there experientially just one single aspect? Maybe you can call it a sight thought. Do you recognize it as a single 4D image thought? And that entire image thought is one single screen, which includes your own body, your computer, your desk, your room, your fruit. Everything is one single image thought. Is this different from the image thought that you saw in your dream state? You'll notice that it is a single image, and dream is also exactly like that. Do I need physical eyes for knowing this image thought? No. If it happened in the dream state, that means I don't need physical eyes. So really the whole idea of a seer collapses there. Do you recognize that these are simply labels, not individual objects? Seer, seer's eyes, seer's physical body, object of sight like the computer, the room, table, chair. They are all simply labels put on a single screen thought or a single image thought. Do you clearly recognize it as nothing but a single thought? Yes. So now you will understand verse number 1. ദൃശ്യമില്ലാരിയും മുമ്പു മറിഞ്ഞാതെന്നു ശേഷവും നോക്കിയാൽ ആർക്കുമാറിയ മിഥു സംശയമെന്നിയേ. Before the seeing, there is no seen. Seen means object of sight. Before the seeing, there is no seen. And there is no seen after the seen. There can be no doubt about it. Before the light starts projecting, there is no scene, there is no drishyam. And there is no scene after the scene. ഈ വസ്താവ നല്ല പോലെ ബോധിച്ചല്ലറിയുമ്പോതും ദൃശ്യമില്ലേനു കാണുക മട്ടിതും ബന്ധവും തഥാ. When this truth is clearly understood, it will be evident that there is no seen even at the time of seeing. And then ceases all bondage. In short, before the seeing, there is no seen. After the seeing, there is no seen. Even during the seeing, there is no seen. Without a doubt. There is no drishyam. There is no object of sight. Objects of sight do not exist. Recognizing this truth will break all bondage, because the bondage is only of a false experiencership of that particular object of sight. Now, if we come to this clear recognition, there is no object of sight, what bondage would be there? There is no separate object of sight, really no seeing and no seer. These three aspects were just simply labels put on one single screen. Till now, we don't know what this single screen is, but it is definitely not an object of sight because it includes the label seer. It includes the label seeing, and it includes the label seen or the object of sight. I had told you this story. It's a very popular Advaitin story. I've repeated it before many times. The Princess of Kashi. There was this young 6-year-old prince who was very cute, very, very cute. He had longish hair, very cute. In the king's court, one day there was a play that was going to be staged. And the girl who was supposed to play the role of Princess of Kashi was unavailable that day. So this cute young prince was chosen to be dressed into her beautiful princess gown and play the role of Princess of Kashi. And he did such a good job, the queen was very happy. She ordered that they make a painting of this young prince. And the painting was made. 20 years down the line, this prince, who had turned into a handsome young man, he happened to visit the storeroom of the palace and he saw that painting. And he fell in love instantly with the beautiful Princess of Kashi. And he was pining in his love when the minister noticed and asked him what is the matter. And he expressed his desire. I want to marry this Princess of Kashi. So the minister said, oh, great, it's a princess. Tell me, who is she? Where is she? How did you meet her? And he says, no, I haven't met her. I just saw her painting. Come, let me show it to you. And then he takes the minister down to the basement and shows the painting. And the minister said, okay, please sit down. Please sit down. When you were 6 years old, you were really cute. And he narrated the whole incident, how he was made the Princess of Kashi. And he said, you have fallen in love with your own self. So when he had fallen in love with his own self, he really was desperate to meet her, to be with her. That entire clingy, mushy love, that itself had become bondage. He was totally hypnotized by the Princess of Kashi. And when he realized that the Princess of Kashi was not somebody else but he himself, the hypnotism broke. The charm dissolved. Bondage ceased. It's the same hypnotism we are in. We feel, I, the seer, am separate from this object that is seen. And I'm hypnotized by it because I feel it is separate from me and I want to make it mine. I'm attached to it. I'm totally hypnotized by it. But the moment I see, I, the seer, and this object that I'm seeing, they are not two different entities. I have fallen in love with my own self. Then the hypnotism breaks. The charm dissolves. Bondage ceases. There are no objects of sight out there. Before the seeing, there is no seen. Seen is the Drishyam, the object of sight. There is no seen after the seen. There can be no doubt about it. When this truth is clearly understood, it will be evident that there is no seen even at the time of seeing. That means the object of sight did not exist before, during, or after. The object of sight does not exist. It is not separate from you. You have fallen in love with your own self. You have fallen in love with your own self. Now let's do a similar experiment with sound. You're listening to my voice. Is there a separate hearer, a separate process of hearing, and a separate object of sound called Ekta's voice? Examine carefully. How do you see it now? Do you notice it as three separate aspects or just one? That is your litmus test whether you're still at Srishti Drishtivada or have you naturally progressed to Ajatavada. Is there really a hearer involved in the process of hearing who's experiencing a separate object of sound? Or is it experientially just simply one aspect, one single sound thought? And the sound thought includes your ear, the sound waves of my voice, the process of hearing, and the source of the voice, Ekta's voice. All of it is one single, really, one single aspect. It's indescribable. You cannot really put a word to it. That's why I'm just saying sound thought for right now. It's a stepping stone using these words, sight thought, sound thought. It's not the final because I don't know. It's indescribable. There is no real sound object before the hearing, after the hearing, or even during the time of hearing. Without a doubt. This seizes all bondage with sound. That Princess of Kashi's voice that you wanted to hear, that you had fallen in love with, it's you. You are speaking to your own self. You have fallen in love with your own self. Examine, is this different from a sound thought that I would have probably heard in my dream state? No, it is the same. So do I need a physical ear for knowing this sound thought? No. Do you recognize that these are simply labels? They are not individual objects. Hearer, hearer's ears, hearer's physical body, the object of sound, Ekta's voice, birds chirping, the wind, the rain, phone bell, music. No, these are simply labels put on a single sound screen thought. Do you clearly recognize it as nothing but a single thought? Objects of hearing do not exist. Recognizing this truth will break all your bondage, because that bondage was only of a false experiencership of a separate object of hearing. But what bondage is there if there is no separate object only? Again, now the sight thought of that fruit and the sound thought, what you're hearing right now, these two screens, look at your sight screen and your sound screen. Are they two separate thoughts? Two separate screens? you will notice, no, it is one single screen thought. It is not even separate. I had only put labels of sight and sound. Do the same for the sense of smell. Open your fruit box. If it's in a box, open the box and smell the fruit. Is there a separate smeller, a separate process of smelling, a separate object of smell? Examine carefully. Do you notice 3 separate aspects or is it just one? Is there really a smeller involved in the process of smelling who's experiencing some separate object of smell, or is there experientially simply one aspect, one single smell thought, we can call it? Do you recognize it as a single smell thought which includes your nose, the chemical particles of smell, and the source of the smell, your fruit? It's single smell thought. There is no smell object, Drishyam, before the smelling or after the smelling or even during the time of smelling, without a doubt. If you see this, this ceases all bondage. Is this different from the smell that you have of some delicious food in your dream? No, it's the same. I did not need a physical nose for smelling my dream fruit. Yeah? That means I do not need a physical nose to know the smell thought. These are simply labels I have put. Smeller, smeller's nose, smeller's physical body, and an object of smell like a perfume or some fragrance of the rose or some wonderful fragrance of the fruit or the yucky, sweaty smell from your body. Simply labels I have put on a single smell screen. Do you clearly recognize it as nothing but a single thought, not 3 separate aspects? Objects of smell do not exist. Once you recognize this truth, it will break all your bondage of overeating. All the yummy, delicious food that you want to overeat and possess and make it mine. I've fallen in love with myself. I am Princess of Kashi. I am that dragon fruit that I want to eat. Why? Because this bondage is only of a false experiencership of that particular object of smell. What bondage would be there if there was no object there at all? Again, now let's look at the sight thought, sight of the fruit, the sound thought, sound of my voice, and now the smell of the fruit. So the sight thought, sound thought, and smell thought. Are they 3 separate thoughts or is it a single screen thought? It's a single screen thought. And now you're touching the fruit, it's in your hand. Is there a separate toucher, a separate process of touching, and a separate object of touch? No, there are no 3 separate aspects. It's just one. Notice, is there really a toucher involved in the process of touching a separate object of touch? Is this experientially one single thought for you? Do you recognize it as a touch thought, which includes your skin, the texture of the fruit, and hardness or softness. Is that different from the source of the touch? There is no touch object, Drishyam, before the touching, after the touching, or even during the time of touching. Once you recognize this, which bondage of yours will break? The entire sexual energy that goes out in search of satisfying itself with an external object of touch. That unnecessary expenditure of energy, that will cease. That bondage will cease. Notice, is this different from the touch thought that you experience in your dream? No, it is the same. That means I do not need skin or a physical body for knowing the touch thought. I have only put labels. There are no individual objects. There is no toucher's skin, toucher's physical body, an object of touch like a hard or soft surface, or another physical body. I have simply put labels on a single touch screen thought. Do you clearly recognize it as nothing but a single thought? Objects of touch do not exist. When you recognize this truth, the biggest bondage will break, because our biggest bondage that has kept us, the most strongest instinct, is either food or sex. Yeah? So taste, smell, which is linked to food, and touch, which is linked to sex. These are the two strongest instincts that hold us to this feeling, this strong belief, I am this body. And I am experiencing objects. And I want those objects. That experiencership, that feverishness for experiencership of these objects, that itself is bondage. And when you realize that these objects don't exist only, what bondage is there when there is no object there at all? So now put all of these together, the sight thought, the sound thought, the smell thought, and the touch thought. Are they four separate thoughts? Or is it all a single screen thought? Lastly, it is similar with the taste of the fruit. So take a bite. And wait. Take a bite. Is there a separate taster, a separate process of tasting, and a separate object of taste? Or do you notice just one single taste thought there? Is there really a taster involved in the process of tasting, a separate object of taste? Or is it experientially one single thought? Do you notice this single taste thought includes your tongue, the flavor on your tongue, the source of the taste, whatever your fruit is? There is no taste object. These are just labels. There's no taste object, Drishyam, before the tasting, after the tasting, or even during the tasting. Without a doubt. Once this you can see very clearly, this will seize all your bondage of food. Is this different from the taste thought that you had experiencing in your dream? No, it is the same. Do you need a tongue for knowing this taste thought? No, in the dream I didn't really have a tongue tasting that taste thought. It was just a taste thought. So if this is opening up a bit for you, do you recognize these are simply labels on individual objects? A taster, taster's tongue, taster's physical body, an object of taste like this fruit or some veggies or whatever delicious food that really hypnotizes you and you forget about your diet. Oh, these are not individual objects, they are simply labels put on one single thought. Objects of taste do not exist out there. When I recognize this bondage, then I will not have to go exercising and really bothering about my weight and stepping onto that scale and checking every week. Why? Because the bondage of a false experiencership of that object of taste, which is separate from me, and I need to consume it, I need to taste it, I really need it. Oh, it's Princess of Kashi's me only. Hut. Then that whole air castle shatters. And then there is no bondage at all. And you know that there is no object there at all. Yeah? Now again see, really is there a sight thought? Look at your own fruit. Is there a sight thought and sound thought and smell thought and touch thought and taste thought? 5 separate thoughts? No, it's one single screen thought. Look around, look at your room, along with the computer and the table and everything. Isn't it one single screen? Dive into this single screen. Recognize it as a single screen thought. There is nothing else but a single thought. When I recognize a thought, I am seeing myself. All words like time, perception, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, even the word now, these are all labels. There is no sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. There are no feelings, sensations. There is no now. Even the word I is a label. There is no I. When you see from this angle, what is cannot even be called a thought. There are actually no words to describe it. It is indescribable. It's outside our human dictionaries. You cannot even call it one. It is actually no two. That is the true meaning of Advaita. There is only Advaita. There is only Advaita.